Welcome back to An Audience of One by JannahVersity, in which we deliver spiritually uplifting and motivational content to individuals who need a reminder that they have worth, that they have value, and a gift that they need to share with the world once they realize their full potential. Throughout this series, we've been talking about the need to change your life, to pursue your goals, and to reach your full potential. We've talked a lot about different tactics to make that a reality. We've also talked about the many pitfalls that you have to be careful to avoid. If you're sincere and you continue to put in the effort, you may fail from time to time, and you will have some setbacks, but you are going to have success as well. And through this success, you're going to see improvement in your life. And that may take many different forms, either in your character, your fitness, your finances, your confidence, or your activities and goals that you're pursuing. One thing you have to realize is that some people aren't going to embrace the new you. And unfortunately, those people are most likely going to be people who, for one reason or another, were closest to you in the past. And what's worse is that they will oftentimes try to make you feel bad for your improvement. They typically will do this in one of two ways. They'll either try to make you feel like you're better than everyone else now that you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, or they'll remind you of who you once were and all the wrong that you did in the past as a way of tearing you down and letting you know that not only are you not all that, but that you're not allowed to be anything other than what they remember you as. First is that they had some sort of dependency on you being whoever it was that you were before you made the changes that you made. They relied on you in some way. This could take many different forms, but one example of this is that they were misery and you were company. If you've improved your life, you're most likely not moping around complaining about how life isn't fair, you can't catch a break. And if you were their companion in misery and you used to sit around with them talking about how this thing or that thing is holding you down, then your exodus from whatever situation you were in has now left a void. Whose shoulder are they supposed to cry on now? You have to realize that even you at some point did this. You thought your situation was acceptable because you weren't the only one. If you're the only one in your social circle or in your town who's fat, an alcoholic, a drug addict, depressed, financially unstable, and complaining about how the world did you wrong, then it makes it harder for you to point the finger at some outside systemic oppression called life that's holding you back. But when you're surrounded by the unhealthy looks normal. And when you decide that you've had enough of living an unhealthy life by being physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, intellectually, and financially unfit to the point where you were going to change your life around, that created chaos in the life of those who felt comfort in your misery, creating a sense of normalcy to their misery because back then, at least they weren't the only one. And if you're being brutally honest with yourself, you've been there before. You've been the one saying to yourself, damn, look at all these people who weren't even where I was. They weren't as skilled as me. They weren't as talented as me, who have now surpassed where I was. And if only I had kept at it or started back then, where could I be? What could I have accomplished? The proper response is to do what you're doing right now. Get up, dust yourself off, start putting in the work to make the changes to improve your life. When you fall down, you get back up and you keep trying. Over time, you'll see the results and eventually things will change. Your life will improve and you'll unfortunately have to deal with the people who want to pull you back down. But being in that position is a good problem to have. The proper response is not to get up all in your feelings and decide that misery likes company, so you try to pull everybody back down to your pit of despair like crabs in a barrel. But unfortunately, that's what a lot of people do. So you're getting fit, they're still fat with health problems. You're out running, they're watching Netflix with a bag of chips. You're working on goals, they're working on leveling up their video game. You're working on getting your mental health state right, and they're still battling drugs and alcohol. You're waking up early, they're still sleeping off, staying out all night at some house party or the bar. You've accomplished more by noon than they'll accomplish in a week, and all they have to show for it is a hangover. And for some of us, it's not that bad. Our social circle isn't engaged in all of this destructive activity. So it's not that they're doing all of these negative things. It's just that they're doing nothing. They have no goals. They have no aspirations. By all accounts, they're boring people. And people with this attitude and lack of drive are dangerous from a completely different angle. But regardless of the type of people that you have around you, there are two common responses to your development, which these types of individuals use as defense mechanisms to protect their fragile emotional state about the world they've built for themselves from which you seem to have escaped. The first response is to insult you. Now, the most dependent upon you types might be over the top and just insult you for your improvement. But the rest will be more subtle and use backhanded comments and sarcastic compliments Another form this takes is to insinuate that now you think you're on an ivory tower. You'll hear from them things like, "Here comes Mr. Money," or "Hey look, Mr. Popular's here," or "Oh my God, look who has time for us," or "Bro, are you taking steroids?" or any other type of comment that is meant to point out your improvement but said in a way as if it's a bad thing, or that you've achieved your success through illegitimate means, or whatever improvement you've made makes you think that you're better than them. The second response is to attack you by trying to remind you of what you did in the past and who you used to be. They'll try to remind you or others in the crowd of the actions that you used to do. You might hear them bring up your past in conversation with others like, "Don't let this guy fool you. Back in the day, we used to do XYZ." Or let me tell you a story about her one time. And although this may seem like harmless reminiscing, it's really a veiled attack and is often accompanied by comments like, "He's too good for us now." Sometimes they'll go so far as to remind people of your specific faults as a way of attacking who you are now, by hoping that you can't escape who you once were. There are a couple of things to remember, but first and foremost, never apologize for your self-improvement. We all go through difficulties through life. Many times we struggle with self-inflicted wounds. We've said stupid things, we've done stupid things that we regret. But what has happened. Where you can make amends, you do so. Where you can't, you don't concern yourself with it and you have to keep moving. Because the fact that at some point in your life you said internally to yourself that "I'm not happy with where I'm at and with who I've become," and you decided that you were going to change, that in and of itself is remarkable and praiseworthy. Unfortunately, many of us have some memories of the way things were. We reminisce about times past with nostalgia, and it's hard, even for us, to completely let go. But we have to let the past us die so we can become who we're trying to be. And there are people who want the past version of you to live on, either because their identity is attached to who you once were, or because they don't want to be left alone in the graveyard of souls that couldn't elevate to the next level. But you just have to accept that misery not only likes company, it usually has no shortage of companions, but never enough. And success has a hard time making friends with anyone who's not also walking the path. The two don't mix. In fact, they're usually at war with each other. And although there's the desire to lift people you care about, you can't let them pull you down and drown you in the abyss if they're not willing to swim to the surface. Yes, your past may be ugly, but it's the path that brought you to where you are today. The pain, the depression, the fear, the regret, the loneliness, the self-doubt, the anger you felt about yourself is something you can't manufacture. You can't pretend to have these experiences. Those experiences seem like an unfair trade to have suffered for the price of being awake and purpose-driven, with the wisdom of the experiences that you've gone through. But you and the people who you intend to benefit will be better off for the person you've become, especially in the context that all you've had to overcome. You have no need to apologize for that. I'm not sorry for getting my life together. I'm not going to apologize for it, and neither should you.